First, depending on what type of material that you want to use, there again, it can be either ABS, polycarbonate, polypropylene, or any type of plastics that you want to do. If you want your material to be color, a certain color, you have a dyes that you can mix in with the virgin material. And whatever that color of that dye is, that will turn that material to that color. It does not take much material. Normally the way they do it, they take a 55-gallon drum. About 3% of what can fit in that material, in that drum, is colored material. And they'll tumble that material until it's mixed up real good. And then they'll bring it over to the injection molding machine. Injection molding machine, just to get started, to make a mold, you have a lot of processes you have to do. Actually, to make a mold, you have to make the part out of graphite material or some type like such, what you want to do. You take that material, you burn it into that steel, into the mold cavities, and get that shape out. And what we have here is graphite material. It was made for push buttons. This was made here, and what we did, we put the inserts, took the graphite material, and you burn that with what they call the EDM machine into that steel, that shape. And then you actually put these inserts into a mold base, and then you come out with actual real part. And as you can see here, these are a different variety of parts that you can make in the injection molding machine. Also, we have here, we have the preforms of bottles, drink bottles. As you can see, this will be a 3-liter bottle. That'll be a 2-liter bottle. And this will be a 32-ounce bottle. And as you can see, the caps will fit. If you have a regular drink cap now, it will fit those preforms. They take these preforms and actually make them in an injection molding machine. And as you can see here, the green one, that's going to be a Sprite bottle. And then they take these preforms and take it to a blow molding machine and actually clamp it up to whoever the shape that bottle is going to be, and then inject hot air and then blow that bottle out to whatever size it needs to be. And as you can see here, we have more things that can be made in injection molding machine. This tester here, everything on it is almost plastics. Only thing that's not plastic is the tips, where your probes that you stick in to see what voltage that you have on your line. So these are processes and parts that can be made in injection molding machine. So our next step, we'll go over and we'll talk about how to get the machine running. What we have here is an injection molding machine. As you can see, you have heating stations. Each station represents some heating area on this heater chamber right here. And as you can see, the temperatures that you're going to have to come up to, you have the 400 as your target temperature. Right now, things are pretty close at 400 degrees. Alright, so what you want to do, when you run in the molding machine, when you very first start one, you put your material into the hopper. Alright, and then what you have to do is called purging the machine. Purging means that you're going to get as much of the old material that was in there before as have the new material purged out. So the way we do that, we try to go to manual mold, go to the screw, and then see if it can purge any material out. Manual, screw run, and you'll see some of the old material is trying to come out of there. And it'll come out of this nozzle, as you can see over here. And once you think you got some of the old material out, you bring it back, and then you come over here and you bring the sled, what we call the sled, which is this whole unit right here, bring it back up to the machine. So you sled, bring it back up, and it slides up to the mold itself. Make sure your gate is closed, everything's good. Alright, then I'm going to see if we can close the mold itself manually. And when you're pretty much ready to run the mold, you make sure that everything's clear. Alright, and then you take it, close the door, and we can run it in a single mold or a continuous. So we're going to run it in the single mold. And as you see, the two halves close together. The material is trying to be forced into the mold. And it's going to sit for a second for the part to cure. And there you go, you got your part. And there's your part. The runner system takes the material from the screw into the cavity. Then once it gets into the cavity, you have what they call a gate where material feed into, and that gate serves two purposes. It's also allowing the material to go in, also allows you, when you're ready to break the part off, it breaks off real easy, and don't need any other job to do to it, like a secondary operation. But that's pretty much the way you run a mold. The main thing you have to do is make sure that what kind of material you're running will depend on what those temperatures need to be. All material has its own temperature range, and all material has a shrink factor. So depending on what type of material you're running, you need to know the temperature of that material, the best running cycle. And when you're running a part, you want to make sure that you fill that cavity in to where you get a full detail of that part. Because if you don't shoot enough material into the cavity, then you'll have areas where it did not fill, and you won't have a complete part. So you want to make sure that you fill in that cavity at the right amount of material. A lot of times too, depends on what type of material you're running. The materials, plastic materials, have to go into what they call a drying cycle. Silos, they store the materials in silos, and then they come into a dryer, and it'll dry that material, dry those pellets, and then actually after it dries, then it comes to the injection mold machine to be molded into whatever special shape it needs to be. You have different sizes of molding machines, and they come in tonnage. This one right here is a 33-ton molding machine. They also come in as big as 200-ton molding machine. I've seen where they have went to one molding manufacturer, and they was molding a dashboard for a Big Mac truck. In order for me to see the mold, I had to walk up on a platform and look down. That's how big the mold is. So molds come in all different shapes and sizes. Some come smaller than what you see here, and some come 10 times bigger than what you see here. So it all depends on what you're molding or the part that you need. So your process of molding, getting your part out, you have to reverse yourself to shut the machine down. All right, to shut the machine down, you go back into the manual mode, get out of single, go back into manual mode. All right, you want to take that sled, manual sled, and pull it back. You gotta make sure the gate is closed, because if that gate is not closed good, the system won't work. So you have to make sure everything is shut down good. Alright, so the gate is all the way back. Now what you want to do, you want to see if you can purge some of that old material out. And you can hear it popping coming out of that. So you want to keep doing that a couple of times to make sure you get all that material out of that screw. Alright, then you open your gate. Always wear protective clothing, gloves, and stuff like that, because this material is hot. That material is at 400 degrees, so you don't want that to get on your hands or your body. So this is what it looks like when you get done, and you want to get some of that old material out of there. That's what you want to see when you're shutting the machine down. On the machine, the screw itself, this is just a little bigger than what's actually in the machine. But what I mean by making sure all the material get off the screw, this is what I'm talking about, like you see here. This screw, the material was left in it, and you could damage your screw if you leave the material in there. And it could come out like you see here. This type of screw right here is just a smaller version on the inside of that heater chamber. They all look the same. So that's when I mentioned the screw, that's what we're talking about right here. All right, we got all the material out of the chamber, and we're ready to shut down. So all you have to do is make sure everything's pulled back. You can't open the door if you want to, but all you do is hit the off button, and you're done.